Mr. Robinson, you here? Is that you? You can come up to the front table if you want to. Read this to y'all. This is an introduction. So we are the Jones County Board of Equalization.
Wait one second. He has to come up to the podium. He can't sit back there. 'Cause
Well,
nobody will be able to see him.
You gotta be up here
Straight.
now. Speaker.
Yeah, but I ain't called him up yet. I just told him to come up here. I hadn't opened the meeting yet. We're the Jones County Board of Equalization. My name's Ricky Lister. Also, we have on board Mr. Larry Oxford, Ms. Deborah Daniel Purnell, and Dan Howard. Board members are appointed by the grand jury, and we're not lawyers or judges. Our job is to hear the appeals of the property tax matters, value, homestead exemption, and extensions. We're not connected to the tax assessor's office or other county officials. We hope you took the time to read the rules and regulations that we sent you. Tax assessors will present their information first. The board will allow each party to present the information without interpretation, and upon completion of each party's presentation, both parties will be given the opportunity to cross-examine, rebut, or question each other in an orderly fashion as directed by the board. When all information has been presented by both parties, the board shall deliberate and make a decision. Deliberation shall be among the board members only. Further input shall be allowed from the property owner, or that will be delivered by hand with a written receipt or by certified mail to the taxpayer. The original copy of the final decision will be filed with the County Board of Tax Assessors. If either party is not satisfied with this decision, the party has a right to appeal to the Office of Superior Court. Are there any questions before we proceed?
No, sir.
All right. Y'all got any questions? All right. If you will, come up here and introduce yourself to us. We're filming this, so
Sure.
You're on camera.
Candy camera. Good morning. My name is Mark Robinson. Is the clock on now?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're gonna let you go first,
Okay.
and then the tax assessors can present their. Wow.
Measure.
First, I want to say my words are not intended to offend anyone. Mr. Bill and Ms. Kim have always been kind and nice to me every time I've gone into the tax assessor's office. They have been. Again, my name is Mark Robinson, and I've lived in Jones County for 50 years. I've been a landowner and homeowner since 1990. I have owned 4 different residences here, and I have never appeared before this board and never challenged my valuation until today. My challenge is twofold. I own a small tract of land upon which my primary residence is. It is located at 2063 Monticello Highway. I also own a large tract of land which connects my land on Monticello Highway to Pippin Road. I would like to address my small tract of land first. My first exhibit, you will have to excuse the use of exhibit, that term. As an investigator for the DA's office for more than 30 years, this is the language that I'm used to. Okay, is a public.net printout of my small tract of land. I built my home in 2020. You will note that the valuation, there's no accessory value in 21 and 22. I had my carport built at the end of 2022. So it shows in 2023 and 2024 at a static amount of 29,334. My land value changed between 21 and 22 due to an error that no one could explain. Since then, my land value has remained relatively static. Again, I will point out that from 23 to 24, there was no change in land value. What did change between 23 and 24 is the improvement value. That improvement value is a nice way of saying my home. The residence has been the same since it was finished in 2020. I built this home in 2020 for $109 a square foot. $109 a square foot. There have been no improvements, expansions, or upgrades since the completion. Despite this improvement value, it went up 7% in 2023. About the amount y'all's property went up this year. Everyone else, 7%. There was no explanation given for this increase. But I adjusted as this increase was not so alarming last year. No, the alarm came this year. I received notice that my improvement value went up an additional 15%. This combines for more than 20% over the last 2 years. Just in 2 years, my home has gone up 22%. And the accessory value remained exactly the same for 23 and 24. However, the improvement value jumped more than $40,000. And I've received no indication as to why this dramatic increase in my valuation. Maybe it's inflation. Maybe it's the cost of housing. Well, if this is the case, then that increase should be felt universally through Jones County, correct? I think we can all agree that inflation and housing costs do not hit one neighbor and then miss another. So I checked. It seems that Jones County does not suffer the same laws of physics as the rest of the world. Here in Jones County, inflation and cost of housing miss certain people's property. For example, my next 5 exhibits are public net properties. My first is Mary Chambers. You all have heard Mary Chambers' name brought up here, who works in the tax assessor's office or is associated with it. How fortunate for Mary Chambers that she does not suffer like the rest of us. You will note that her valuations have remained absolutely the same down to the penny for the last 4 years. I thought this even more strange that when you look at her neighbors, who all had jumps in their valuations in the last year. Heck, our next door neighbor, his valuation jumped $25,000 this year. That's not fair. That's not equitable. No explanation. Next is Brian Jackson, our tax commissioner, Exhibit 3. His printout shows that despite literally living across the street from me, that his home is valued at $97 a square foot. His house is bigger than mine, just as nice. He has an accessory, a 2-car enclosed garage that he built the time he built his house in 2010 that is not being taxed. It is not being taxed compared to my home, which is now being priced and valued at $129 a square foot, $129.36. And my accessory, which is an open air carport, not a garage, and it's being taxed at $29,000. Next is Tim Petrowski. Exhibits 4, 4A, 4B, and 4C. His printouts show that his land is being taxed at $12,000 an acre, where his residence sits in the lot he owns right next to him is being taxed at $7,500 an acre, while everyone else who lives on the same street is being taxed at $15,000 an acre. For instance, see Exhibits 4B and 4C. One of his next door neighbors, 4B, and the one who lives across the street, 4C, they're being taxed at $15,000 an acre, just like everybody else on the street. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not fair. This is not equitable. We can see that these are 3 examples. I have found others in a short period of time that I have looked. We all know that there are more. I found them. So again, I ask, If the reason and rationale is a universal force such as inflation or general cost of housing, why are bureaucrats or those that work for them immune from such forces? Well, Mr. Robinson, no, what we meant to say is that there was a mistake originally, and we are fixing it. Okay, what was the mistake? Where are the calculations that show this mistake? Who made the mistake? How will I know when you finish fixing the mistake? How many times does the valuation of my residence need to go up? No one will answer these questions. This is why I'm before you today. You are the Board of Equalization. I always found that term universal and never really thought about why our board was called this. I think I figured it out. You are the citizens in Jones County. Serve as a checks and balance to our bureaucrats. You serve to ensure that the laws are applied equally and equitably. Your job is to make sure that those who have the power of taxation use the power justly, equally, and appropriately. If those laws are not so applied, it is your power, and I would suggest it is your duty, to deny those government officials unless and until they can explain to everyone why their actions are appropriate. My second objection relates to the land valuation of the property that connects my property on Monticello Highway to Pippin Road. My next exhibit is the public net valuation of that property, Exhibit 5. I bought this tract in 2022. As you can see from the exhibit, the land value in 21 and 22 is the same. Suddenly in 23, this land, with absolutely no improvements on it, became valued $27,000 more. Again, no explanation was given for this increase. Now in 24, the land value increased again, this time more than $18,000. In 2 years, again with absolutely no improvements or changes to the property, that land has increased $45,000. Again, please note that this property connects directly to the land of my small tract, which did not see any increase in valuation. So if I step 2 feet in one direction, I am standing on land that merely changing of my name becomes 30% more in value. Why? So I went and asked, and they found out that I paid $160,000 for it. And they said, because you paid $160,000, we're going to tax you for that. And I said, I bought that so no one would move next to me. Just because I paid $160,000 for it doesn't mean it's valued at that. They said, yes, it does. Get out of here. Denied. Get him out of here. That's not right. Just because I think it's worth that so I can move my children in next to me doesn't mean it's valued for taxes for that. The next exhibits are the land valuations for the neighboring properties. First, the property directly across the street for the land large tract, Exhibit C, which is right across the street. The valuation is $33,42.22 an acre. Again, my property is taxed at $48,35.50. Second, the property of Brian Jackson, right across the street from me, Exhibit 7. His property is valued at $32,23. My property is valued at $48,35.50. The next property is the Turner family, which borders me on the backside, Exhibit 8. That property valued at $2,911.
Let's stop you just a minute. When you say Exhibit A, which one of these, are we looking at these papers? What is Exhibit A? Because I don't have an Exhibit A.
Exhibit A, 8.
8.
8.
8.
Exhibit 8, yeah.
All
If
right,
I said A, I meant
with
8.
you. I'm with you. Go ahead.
Exhibit 8. Exhibit 8 is the Turner family, which borders me on the backside. His property is exhibit, it touches me at $2,900 an acre. My property is $4,800 an acre. I don't see how. When I took my concern to the tax assessor's office, like I explained, and I told them I paid $160,000 for the property, did not have any grounds to challenge the valuation. When I explained what I told the purchase of the property was for, I purchased the land. The price did not have anything to do with the purchase price. That I had nothing to do with the valuation of the property. In fact, in my Exhibit 9 shows that the fair market value of land does not equate to the valuation of that land. Of course, I am sure that it's just a coincidence that that is over in Ms. Chambers' neighborhood, but the land with a fair market value of over $40,000 has a valuation of less than $25,000. You'll see in Exhibit 9. That was bought for $40,000, now it's being taxed at $25,000. That's not right. Again, this board serves as checks and balance to the government. I am asking you to hold the tax assessor's office to their duty to apply the rules fairly and equitably. I am asking that you hold the tax assessor's office to their duty to explain their decision to their fellow Jones County citizens. Do not give this office a rubber stamp and assume that they are doing their job correctly. Challenge them as to their duty. When the government is demanding more money, and let's be clear, this is what this is about, then it is your duty as citizens to say, prove what you're doing is correct and equitably. Thank you.
Good morning, I'm Kim Adams from the Tax Assessors, as you guys know. I'm going to start talking to you guys about his land values on these properties. I'll start with the 32.22 acres that he purchased and addressed. I included the soil type map in that one. As you guys know, this is a conservation property. Conservation properties are based on the soil typing. This is a large tract, so the value is based on the different soil types. So all lands are different. Some general rules, which of course always have exceptions, but when you're looking at properties, the larger the acres, the less per acre. You know, the smaller the tract, the more per acre is just a general rule. But as you can see by looking at the soil type map, every single one, even next to each other, are different. They also have different woodlands versus open land makeups. So you have to really look at a lot of details in order to compare bigger properties. For large tracts, we did do an increase this year because our market has gone up. People like Mr. Robinson have been paying a lot more for properties that are large tracts than we've ever seen before. They all have their own reasons for why they're paying more, but they're paying more. We're having many sales that are up 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 an acre or more. I've got one that's almost 100, or about 100 acres. Was $8,000 an acre for land. It's been crazy. So we have to try to keep up. That's why we did an 8% change to our tables for large tracts and these soil types this year, to try to get closer to. We're not crossed over to over 3,000. We're not crossed over yet for the base up to where we need to be, but we're trying to do incrementally to watch the market to see if people are going to continue to pay more than what we have it on for, or if the market's going to cool down. So we don't want to overreact and go up too much. So we're going to try to do this incrementally and reevaluate every year to make sure that we're trying to keep up with the market so we don't get in trouble with the state for having the values too low. But in conservation too, one other factor is we had this increase of 8% on the land, but he only had a 3% taxable value change because the conservation program, the values for the soil types that is taxable is set by the state. And he went last year for the 32 acres. He went from paying on $18,855 to this year he's going to be paying on $19,411. His exemption went from $118,195 to $136,389. So his exemption took all but the 3% change that the state does every year for taxes. And we really only evaluate soil types, so the makeup of the land, we only really do that every 10 years to verify. Even if he changed it to more open land or something, we really only do that at renewal for conservation. And the other property is also, the 16 acres is also in conservation. And he only pays total of $19,189 for that land, and it is a $53,786 exemption because of the CUVA on there. With some land shifts, again, the conservation for the land value is absorbed into the state's mandates for how much they actually get. So conservation's just its own little thing, and they're very individual looking at it for how it is. And when you look at the soil type map, you can see these are all adjoining properties that if you're sitting on the road looking at them, they look similar. And with the larger, as I said, there's larger tracts around him. Larger tracts, usually a little less per acre. So it's hard to compare a 30-acre and a 90-acre piece accurately, because they're just two different categories. It's like looking at a small ranch house and a 3-story house. They're two different leagues. They're two different everything, and they're hard to compare equally, even though they may both be brick and look, simple. But that's it for the land, and the gentleman will talk to you about the structures if you don't have any questions.
Did you say 3%?
Yes, the state has it built in, and they do it through the legislature every year.
That's
A
right.
3% change to the soil types taxable amount that they do. So that's all that the CUVA can charge you for taxes. You can have the fair market value change, but the exemption changes. So as I said, for that 32 acres, last year the exemption was $118, $195. This year, because we had to make that adjustment, because of people paying more than what we have it on for, in general, we had to make that adjustment to our table. So now his exemption is $136,389. So that increase was absorbed in to that CUVA, to take over the extra that we put. So if 8% is what we did, he only got a 3% because of that for taxes.
Anybody got any questions for her?
Yes.
Sure.
Woodlands, 27.3 acres.
Mm-hmm.
He's got 32 total acres. That gives me, I don't know, my math may be a little off, under 5 acres of usable, buildable space.
That doesn't mean that it's buildable. It just means that there's not trees on it.
Correct.
So it's not buildability, it's production.
Right, but the wetlands, he can't really use the land itself for anything. He can't farm it. He can't really do anything with it. Is that correct?
I don't know how much is creek or woodlands on here. Let me look at the
First page,
first page on there.
subject properties, land on the land is currently valued, mostly woodlands.
And this is for the 32?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's mostly woodlands. The non-thing isn't
Timber.
non-buildable land, it's just open land.
Okay.
It's non-tree land.
In one of the comps you provided, which is Monticello Highway, I've got a similar, actually a little more woodlands. I've got 17 acres, 19 acres. In open land, I've got roughly the same amount he has, just under 5 acres on that property, and just over 34 acres of woodlands. So the comp he provided,
Which comp is that, so I can get a copy?
2115 Monticello Highway. This actually is across the street.
Okay, let me take a
Kind
look.
of sort of, so if you take a look at that, you'll see
Yeah,
what
sure.
my questioning is. Because all things considered equal, he's got a similar amount of proportionate use of woodlands, a similar amount of proportionate use of actual land. This property has a pond on it, which his does not.
Oh, yeah, he has a couple
He does
acre
not have a
ponds.
pond, so he doesn't have that value. So just looking at the numbers, and I believe they're rated at, and as he's saying, uniformity is the issue. This one is taxed at $24,960 total dollars for a lot more acreage. So when I'm looking at his woodlands and his open land value, they do not jive.
Let's see.
So when you're talking about a neighborhood and the actual neighborhood boundaries,
Let me put
would that,
this-
sure, take a look at the composite neighborhood
Because it's
boundaries.
hard, with Q Public, it can be hard to see if that's
Oh,
topography
that's
figures
exactly
or other things.
why I was
So if
looking
bring
at
it up
your-
here, I can see it a lot easier.
Yeah, that's why I was looking at your map that you provided, thank you.
Kim, can you make that any bigger for us to see?
I don't know how we,
There we
is that better? Okay.
go. Well,
Good.
that's better.
Thank you.
That's a big blur, instead of a little blur.
Yes, it is, isn't it?
Yes. I take
Yeah,
my
this is
glasses off and I
just
put
it.
them on against this.
Looking on here, it's very similar for, it is very similar in makeup, but it does shift a little more. He has, this one does have less open land, because the other one's about 5 acres.
Right at 5 acres.
And
It's
this
a
is
little
only,
less,
this
but
is
there's
only a little over 2.
There's a pond which adds extreme value to a piece of property. And
Cuba doesn't.
you're
It
right,
doesn't.
I understand, but in fair market value, when you talk about sales are skyrocketing, that does add value. So if I'm looking at the average buyer would
Not
think,
as much as you would think when you break it down for ponds. People do like ponds, but it's a balancing act because it is not a positive to everyone, and it is not necessarily something that brings a high value for small ponds on there.
this is a 2-acre pond, that's not a small pond.
But in our, let's see how we have the ponds.
Well, what I'm saying
Yeah.
is, I mean, irregardless, he's correct. His neighbor is priced at $25,000 for their total property, which is significantly the same as Woodlands. A little less open land and a pond,
And
but I don't see the difference in what would be almost
The other thing to look at for
$130,000
this
worth of
is
open
the
land.
is the productivity of the actual soils itself. This one has relatively poor soil because we're seeing that the woodlands are 2 and 3. Can you put it back on Mr. Robinson's, the 32 acres, the 16, 18?
I'm not asking that or arguing that. Actually, my point is.
I want to see his makeup, if you don't.
Sure, I don't mind at all.
Sorry, one of the quirks of our system sometimes. Oh, 18,
18.
yeah.
Going to land screen.
Yeah. Yeah, his soil types for that he has more better soil typing on there too. So you can close that out. Soil type has a range and a quality to it as well. Because we have actually 9 different variations, and people that are on the better end can be valued more than the ones on the lower end. So if you have soil types that even are just all woodlands, if there's a variation to it, that's just why our tables work, where there could be even a similar makeup between the two.
I understand, but is it $130,000 worth of difference in soil? That's the question. That is the actual question. Is it $130,000 difference in soil? I don't farm, but I believe I could buy a lot of topsoil for 3 acres for $130,000. So that's my only question, really, and I appreciate Major bringing in this comp because he is not wrong. 24,000 and change for a plot that's actually bigger does make it non-uniform.
Which piece are you talking about?
The lot number J16 00014, J16 00014, 215 Monticello Highway. William Turner is the property, Diane and William Turner. But again, and they're actually have a Cartersville, Georgia address, so this is not property they live on. But it is, I've got,
Their land value is $119,000.
Right. But their taxes are significantly low.
We're not talking about that.
Yeah, we can only talk about land values here. That's
Right.
all we can, in the tax assessor's office, we can only concern ourselves.
So their land
with.
value is at 119, they have a pond, they have 3 acres of open land, they have timber, and they have better soil. They have the same amount, they actually have more woodlands.
And the number, the 25,000 is the number you're talking about, is the conservation number.
Right.
And
Yes.
we get that number from the state. We don't change.
Right.
That's based, yeah.
I believe the major is in conservation too.
But those values are established by the soil types from the state.
I
So
understand.
those, for that. And so there is a difference between every single. I have some family that have 4 identical visually identical pieces next to them in the county. And each brother pays a different tax because even though the acreage is the same, the makeup of everyone
agree.
is different. And that's just how the system works. Is
Understood.
we have to look at the way that the soil types are for each individual property. Even if it's very similar, there are differences that exist.
So
And
Mr.
then
Turner's
if I could
property
say
is
one more thing real quick.
119?
Out of his 10 comps he has, everything on this table has a higher land value except the 2 that are 60 and 90 acres bigger.
And
And you
that's-
said, I'm sorry, 2115 has a land value of 119?
Yes.
That's pretty close to his property as far as size is concerned. Use, the only difference is soil?
And the
Yes,
state
Correct.
determines the soil values, not us.
Exactly, not us.
So
Correct.
the three that are bigger are the only 3 that have a less per acre value.
Correct.
Everything else that he brung in here is higher per acre than we are.
and the general
you.
rule is the larger it is, the smaller per acre, the lower it is
Agreed.
per acre.
Thank you.
And if there's any more questions about the conservation or the land portion before I turn it over?
Thank you.
Good, okay, no problem.
There are different ways we can do garages. And Brian's house is attached, his garage is attached to the house. It's valued on that screen. It's not valued as an accessory. It is being taxed at $21.44 a square foot. If you look on the back, I've got a sketch. Do you have, are we done with the land? Y'all still want to talk about land? Y'all do the house?
I'm great.
We're fine.
Good. Thank you.
Oh, you have all the ones I did? And I should have 5 more copies of this. Oh, y'all already have those?
sketch, you can't put it in sketch.
Okay.
Can't pull up the sketch on here?
Another thing, Tim Petrowski's, the land there that he has is pretty much swamp. He's got, would you pull up Tim's, and we've got a factor on there. Tim has the land here where his house is, the one beside it is pretty much just swamp. So we've got, I don't know what number factor we have on there, but we have a factor on there because of the topography, because it's just swampland. It isn't good for anything. That's the value there. Mary Watts, there was a sketch issue. When we had our sketch put in, we would have one thing, and when you hit apply, it made her value jump way up. And so we put an override in there to cover that. It's one we've missed. It will be corrected next year. We don't give special breaks to anybody on anything. That was one we missed. We did a big value change this year. Mr. Robinson's went up. We did a 20% increase on everybody this year. I explained last year why we were going to have to go up. we're tasked by the state to be at 40% of fair market value. They allow us to be between 36 and 44. Last year, we were 32.9. We had to get up. If we don't get up to where we need to be, last year, all public utilities, instead of being taxed at 40%, we don't do public utilities. The state does that, and then we get the money back. But when we're below the 36%, public utilities don't pay at 36%, at 40%. They pay at the 32.9. If we're below 36 again this year, the public utilities are going to pay less. We're also going to be fined per parcel over 16,000 parcels a certain amount. If we do this, if we're low again next year, public utilities pay less, we get fined per parcel, and next year they won't accept our digest. We won't be able to collect taxes. We'll have to go get an order to collect from the court. It'll be a big mess, and they will bring in an outside company and do a full countywide reval. And where we went up 20% this year, this outside company will come in and put everything at 100% value. We've tried to do the best we can to be as fair as we can. Mr. Robinson's went up 17% this year overall on his house. We went up 20% on everybody, but he's got some depreciation. That's why it went up 17%. It went up $40,706. The difference between his house and Brian's house, what year was it?
2010.
Brian's house is 14 years old. Brian's is what, and also a 110,
I believe so.
a 110 grade house. Mr. Robinson's is a 165 grade.
Yes,
I mean, you have to compare apples to apples, oranges to oranges. Mr. Robinson has a very nice house. I mean, it's a very nice house. But that house today, you said 107 you built it for? 109? In 2020. Okay, that was pre-COVID. After COVID, a house like that today to build would be around $200 a square foot. But I will do just his house now. The front page of this, his property is consists of 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath, 2,144 square foot, single family residence located at 2063 Monticello Highway. You'll open up to the comps page. On here, on all of these, these are all 160 to one house, all of them are 165 grade like his, except for the last house, it's a 170 grade house. It's a higher grade house. But let's go like on the first comp. On the first comp, Mr. Robinson has 16.19 acres valued at $72,975. The first house on Holt Chapel Road, it has 5 acres, 25,000, so I added $49,975 to make it even. The assessment on this one is $305,000 versus Mr. Robinson's $379,000. Most of that's in the land. It's 2,115 square foot. Mr. Robinson's 2,144 at $133 a square foot. The difference, I added $3,862 to make them even. 1 year difference, and it was 1 year newer, I added $1,000 for it being 1 year newer. Both of them average condition, the grade's the same on both of them. Both of them have 2.5 baths. On the open porch, deck, patio, utilities, it had a little bit less of that, so I added $3,804 to equalize it out. It does not have the detached garage, which is $29,334. I added that. It did have a garage attached to it. It's $10,804. I subtracted that $10,804. The difference between the two was $75,169. It came out with $380,169 on that. And this house, of all of them, also this one sold with a lot less land. It sold October 16, 2023 for $479,000. Mr. Robinson's right now is 379, 671 with 11 more acres of land and a little bit more square footage. The next house was on Walnut Grove. It was only a half an acre. I added $52,975 to make up for that difference. It's valued right now at $299, $674. It sold in 05, 23, 23 for $305,000. It's smaller by a couple hundred foot. I added $28,059 for that. It's at $141 a square foot. As you'll notice on these, the later they're built, the higher you go up per square foot, because materials, labor, all that has been going up. It only had 2 baths. I added $3,500 for that. It didn't have as many open porch decks and all that. It only had 4,890, so I added $8,998 there. It did not have the detached garage. I added $29,334. It did have a garage connected to the house, $8,576. The difference being I subtracted $8,576. The difference between the two of them, $113,290, came up with final value with land $412,964. The next house, 802 Nature's Walk, again smaller land. I had to add $55,975. We have it valued at $259,791. It sold August 31st, 2022 for $248,000. Again, it's smaller. I had to add $55,045 to make it work out. Again, newer, it's at $139 a square foot. It's 2 years newer. I had $2,000 for being a newer house. The grade, it's a 5 points higher grade. I added $10,000 for that. 2.5 baths, that was the same. Open porches and all that had a lot less, so I had to add $11,812 there. No detached garage, I added $29,334. It did have a garage, I subtracted $10,849. Total adjustments, $133,317. Total value $393,108. The subject property is a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath, single-family residence located at Monticello Highway in Round Oak. After adjustments to value, comp number 1 with an adjusted value of $380,169 has the smallest amount of adjustment, $75,169. Again, most of that's land and the porches and everything, and is therefore the most comparable. We felt our assessment is fair and uniform and that our assessment should stand. Final opinion of value, $379,671, no change. And I'm open to rebuttals.
Anybody got any questions for him?
You said comp number 1, that's written comp number 3.
I must get that right.
Okay, so
Should've
which
been
one is
comp
right,
number
comp 1 or comp 3?
Comp 1, and if you look, the houses are very similar, and that is not only the most comparable money-wise, but it's the most comparable in type of construction and everything. Mr. Robbins has a very nice house. It's got floor, when you go in, there's like a great room, there's 24-foot ceilings in it. Master bedroom on one side, 2 bedrooms on the other. Very nice, very, very, very nice home. If you built that today, it'd be over $200 a square foot. We have had to go up with our values because, like I said, last year we're tasked by the state to be at 40% of fair market value. We can be as low as 36, we can be as high as 44. Last year we were at 32.9. We did a 20% across the board increase. his only went up 17% this year for some depreciation, but we went to about 20% across the board on everyone. Ms. Watts was on an override, hers will be going up next year, but by and large, almost everyone in this county, some people had overrides because of BOE decisions and things, they haven't went up, but we do our best to be fair, equitable, and uniform on everyone. A lot of houses went up 13% because they're older and everything. But that's why his didn't go up exactly 20%. On our tables, we went up 20%. But when you figure in depreciation, that's why some people's only went up 13, some people went 15, whatever. Mr. Robinson's house is 4 years old, so it only went up 17%. But I feel our value, if you sold that house today, it would bring probably $200,000 more than where we are right now.
When you say it was in the override, Miss,
On Mary's, yes,
Yeah.
it was. When our assessment notices went out, she came in and it had changed. Well, once we send out assessment notices, we don't change. There was a glitch in the software we have where if you go in and pull up the sketch, it showed one value. When you hit apply and come out, it raised the value way up on it. So we put an override in there. It was one we just didn't catch. We've been very busy this year adjusting tables and everything. I guarantee you it will be adjusted for next year. There's probably some others that are like that. We're not perfect, but we try to be, but we did not do it because she's on our board or anything like that. It was just one of those things. I guarantee you that one will be corrected for next year.
who's authorized to do that override? If y'all find it, you're authorized to correct it. to
Yeah, like a lot of times
satisfaction.
when y'all make a decision, sometimes we can lower the grade or whatever, but sometimes when y'all do a number, we can't get to that exact number by changing the grade or effective year. And we go in there and do it with just an override. And it should, when y'all do it, it's on a thing called a 299C. It automatically comes off. You get it, when you do a 299C, you get it for the year you appeal and 2 more years. And the program should kick it out. Sometimes it doesn't. This one, we should have had a flag on to tell us to go up. We missed it. We did. I'm sorry. But it will be corrected for next year.
Is there a certain percentage that you're allowed by the state with overrides?
What, certainly
Like if you,
in
when
terms
you got
of
the
value,
bank, huh?
You talking about number of overrides?
Yeah,
I think it's around 5%.
5%.
5 or 6%.
Anybody got any?
Did you develop the cost approach?
Most of these houses were on the cost approach. I don't have, Kim, look on Mr. Robinson, see if there's a permit on there. Permit value.
205,000 was the permit for the house
In
in
2020.
2020.
What date was the permit taken?
5/20/2020.
Okay, that's right about the beginning of COVID, just as things were going crazy. I mean, you had, $25 sheets of plywood that went to $80 a sheet. Labor costs have went up, everything. Houses like Mr. Robinson's today, to be built, are around $200 a square foot. I mean, this is a custom house, very, very nice house.
You think we over 5% on the overrides?
I'm not sure. Do
You know,
Yeah.
just a general idea?
I think we do have a little more, I do have some more in some categories, for override adjustments. I don't know the exact numbers off the top of my head. I know the only one I know in my head is, and pre-built mobile homes were only at 2.3%, I believe, when I looked at it, because I handle mobile homes. But I don't know the rest of them off the top of my head.
There's different ways that we can adjust values. We can do it with our tables. Our tables are all based on 100 grade houses. Like this year, we went up roughly 20% on a 100-grade house. And then that goes up on a sliding scale. We have houses that are 400-grade houses in this county. So we go up 20% here, 20% on a 100-grade house, it's say $60 a square foot. A 400-grade house is $225, so that 20% goes up there, so it isn't, you know, a certain, you know, it goes up on a sliding scale. But we can go up on our tables, we can change grades, we can change effective years. A lot of the older houses, like 1950s houses, as time goes by, they put new roofs on, they maybe went in, done new plumbing, added an addition, whatever. And when we review houses, if a house has done, you know, been, you know, fixed up quite a bit, we'll go up. A lot of houses, like 1950s houses, we usually have like a 1970 effective year on it. Because in that time, it's been updated. It's had maybe some new wiring put in, a new roof put in, they probably updated the kitchen, all that. Because you have to, you know, houses depreciate at a certain amount. We have a certain amount that it depreciates every year. When you go in and fix it up, that raises that value back up, and that's why we do the effective year on it.
Anybody got any more questions for,
But I'm gonna get you,
y'all got any more questions for the assessors?
No.
Mr. Robinson, you want to rebuttal?
Yes, sir, I did, please, thank you. I have two rebuttals. I want to get back to the land first. This is the pictures of property on Pippin Road.
I'll have the picture.
What I've done, I've taken pictures of the property on Pippin Road, and I want to ask Ms. Kim a couple of questions. Soil productivity, soil quality, what is the number one factor in deterioration of soil productivity?
I believe you're talking about erosion, like you're showing. in
Erosion.
some
The
photographs.
USDA and the State Revenue Department says erosion is the number one factor in deterioration. The numbers that you're using come from what survey? What was the year that was taken?
We get it annually updated from the state through our
And when do they do
GIS.
it? When do they do it?
I am not aware of the process in creating it. I just know that
Those
that's
maps
from
were
the
done
state. With the soil type, I believe it's the Georgia soil type maps, and I do not know their schedules.
It's a
But I know
19
we get it updated
It was the
every year.
1970s, wasn't it?
I don't have that knowledge, I'm sorry. I don't have the knowledge behind
That map was done in
that.
the 1970s. Let's be clear on that. It was done in the 1970s. That's when that soil productivity map was done, in the 1970s. You can take a look at my map, of the pictures of my property. That's soil erosion. Now, since the 1970s, soil deterioration, soil erosion, soil productivity has gone way down since those maps were done. Now, it's pretty to look at. You can look at that. But those banks, that splits my property on Pippin Road. That 33 acres, I've got that 3 to 4 acre little meadow, little pasture, is right off the Pippin Road. But once you go into the tree line, that creek splits that property and it slopes down the soil productivity. Now, I don't know what the productivity is in the soil now, but it's certainly not 1s, 2s, and 3s. Not now.
Is that a natural creek?
It's a natural creek. There's springs.
Not a runoff from the
Where I'm
road?
standing, right behind me, there's springs.
Right.
There's springs that pop up out of the ground. There used to be a culvert. The owners back in the 50s that bought the property, they had big culverts, and you can see them, they're in the ground. They perk up out of the ground and start this creek. That's the property on Pippin Road.
Okay.
My property behind my house, the small tract, it won't perk. It won't perk. I spent thousands of dollars to get a septic system put in.
So you have to pump it. You have to pump it.
No, what I did was, I had to go under this creek here. There's one spot about 700 feet back behind my house that I found that would perk up on top of the hill, a flat spot, and I cleared it out. And I pumped from behind my house. I have 2 septic tanks right behind my house, and I pumped from there up a hill 700 feet. It's way back behind my property into a drain field, down this creek and to the left. And if you'll see, look at both of these pictures. My drain field is the second picture up to the left on the hill. That's the property, the small tract. Now, I don't know about the soil productivity on that land, but it's certainly not $4,500 an acre. But it's pretty to look at from my back deck down that creek. That's a natural creek there. There's 5 springs that pop up out of my side yard there. It's swamp. It's a marshland. In the summertime right now, I can't drive a lawnmower over it. Can't do it. But there's 5 springs that pop up and start that creek, and it goes around my house and down into the bottom, starts the creek. And it's been that way for hundreds of years. Hundreds of years. It started that creek, and it washes down. There's 60-foot banks that come down and start that bottom. It goes down through there. But soil productivity, it ain't worth a tinker's darn. But it's $4,500 an acre according to the tax assessor's office.
Was that there when you bought it?
That was there when I bought it. Yep. But it won't perk worth a flip. But Tim Petrowski's land is swamp. And he pays less in taxes because of it. Now, my house. I just heard Bill say about my living room. I want to know what pictures he used to value my house. Did you use interior pictures?
We did it on the grade of the house. And the other houses, I've got pictures of them from the outside.
Did you use interior pictures?
Going into the ones being built.
But we go by the grade of the house.
Did you use interior pictures of my house? Did you use these pictures right here?
I think I've got a picture of the inside of your house in there.
You use that picture?
Well, I mean, not, we didn't just go by, oh, we see the picture and we go by that. But what we do is,
But you referenced that picture. You had to, because you just said my interior, the ceiling on the inside of my house.
yeah, the grade is a reflection of the quality of material and the quality
Bill,
of
that's not my
workmanship.
question. That's not my question. There's a picture, and you all have it. Exhibit number 1. There's a picture that's improperly posted on my house, of my house. The construction, the interior picture. Did you use that picture?
We use we can take that picture off.
But you used it though, the value of my house.
We use the quality
You
of
used it.
material
You
and
used it.
workmanship of your house, we use the value of your house.
Are you familiar with OCGA 48-5-264.1?
No, I don't know what that is.
Okay. That law governs what they can and can't do. And I'll read it to you. It's the revenue and taxation, the ad valorem taxation, uniform property and tax administration, equalization. The chief appraiser, other members and county property appraisal staff, authorized agents, and the county board of tax assessors and members of the county board of tax assessors who are conducting official business of the chief appraiser, the county appraiser staff, or the county board of tax assessors may go upon the property outside of buildings, posted or otherwise, in order to carry out the duty of making appraisals of fair market value of taxable property in the county, other than property returned directly to the commissioner, provided, however, such person representing the chief appraiser, appraisal staff, or county board of tax assessors shall carry identification sufficiently prominent to permit the occupant to readily ascertain such person as such representative. Such representative shall not enter upon the property unless reasonable notice has been provided to the owner. Now, they use that interior picture to value my property. Whether they use any others, they use that one. That is improper. That is improper. And that's what I'm saying, ladies and gentlemen. They must be held accountable. This is the law. Plain and simple, this is the law. Hold them to it,
Come here, Bill. I'll give you a chance.
okay? They can use any other pictures they want to, but they sit in their office. They sit in their office. They don't go to our property, okay, to look at the property, give us notice they're coming. They sit in their office on their computers, and that's how they assess our property. They don't go and look at it. They've never been to my property.
You can't take the picture inside your house.
Okay?
Hey, you about finished up?
I'm just about.
Okay, 'cause we pushing, we really went way over on this hearing, but I wanted, you seem really agitated about it. I wanted to make sure we heard everything you wanted to.
I just want to make sure they do their diligence when you talk about my tax money.
Okay. All right, if you have a seat, Bill, I'll give you
We,
2 minutes.
okay. We'll take that picture off, but, yeah,
It's too late now. It's too late now. You've already used it.
we
You
use
can't
everybody's.
unring the bell.
We go in all new construction, we go in everybody's house because we have to go in, we have to see what kind of countertops you have, what kind of flooring you have, how many bathrooms you have, how many fixtures you have. You have a 3-fixture bath, you have a 4-fixture bath. We go in everybody's house. We did not value Mr. Robinson's house any different than we have done any other new construction.
Unless they give you notice they're coming.
I
they
want
can't
Mr.
do
Robinson,
it.
let him,
When you get the permit, there is an implied consent there when you get the permit that we have to go out, because we can't just go up to the house and look at it and go, oh, well, that's got two bathrooms, 1 3-fixture, 1 5-fixture. It's got, this has got granite countertops. We have to do a physical inspection, because you can have 2 houses side by side that look the exact same on the outside. This one might be a 115 grade, this one might be a 150 grade.
okay, I think we understand. We understand how you do it.
Right, but we do our best to be fair and uniform
Have you,
with everyone.
is that all you got,
Pretty much.
Mr. Robinson, you through? Y'all got any questions before we intervene? All right, well, let's get together and we'll give y'all a answer here in a few minutes. Anything question?
Just to make sure. That's the years. We want to go back. We want to go back on the house and do a cost evaluation. Just go back to the
In 3 years, I think you can't test for 3 years.
Our, we want to see it go back to the 2030 evaluation. It's 200.
This is just a house. So both of them have to.
Alright, what we came up with is we're gonna give you the land, land stays as it is according to Cuba, what happened to the land. But the house, we recommended that you take it back to the 23 taxes on it.
239,
236.
236, 236, 5, 656.
236, what, Rick?
556.
This year, yeah,
656.
236, 656.
The land, the land's gonna stay like it is. They're gonna go back and, they'll reassess, after this, and, that's what we came up with. Any other questions before I move on? Thank you, Mr. Robinson. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Kim. Mhm.
Oh, sir, do you want these back?
Yeah. We can turn all of it in on our end. Yeah.
My apologies, but again, he is want to do it fast. Who he is and what he does.
Who you got now?
J5904.
Sharon Marie.
I guess, or something.
Marie.
Shannon Marie, Miss Lewis. Miss Lewis, are you here?
Yes.
All right. You can come up to that first table there. You can come up to the podium when we get ready.
Okay.
Are you ready to
Yes.
go?
Yes, sir.
All right. Bill, are you ready?
Yeah, let me give y'all.
You got any documents you want us to have?
Thanks, Bill.
I'm sorry, I didn't make y'all copies.
Thank you.
We got plenty. And we're looking at your property on 897 Children's Drive.
No, it's actually 893 is the
She's got
first.
two.
We only got one on here.
2 mobile homes, isn't it?
I guess you 2 and 3.
Chapman Mobile Homes.
I guess you 2 and 3.
There's one at 894 and one at 893.
She's
Yes.
2 and 3.
Okay.
The 897 is the one I live
Bill, do you mind if she goes first?
No, don't.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Come up, Miss Lewis.
in. Okay. Again, I'm Shelley Lewis. We're gonna start with the 893. The 893 is a rental property. I inherited it from my mom and dad. My mom and dad actually lived at 894, which is across the street. The 893 is next to my house, which is 897. When I inherited it, my mom and dad was the land value and let's just start with the appraised value. The appraised value before, when they owned it, was like 34,000. And then when I inherited it, it went to 45,000 and then went to 50,000 for this year. The land value went from 12,000 to 18,000. Now it's gone to 20,000.
Can I ask you a question? When did you inherit it?
2022 is when it was officially put in my name.
Okay.
I'm not understanding why the land and the home increased in the value because nothing has been upgraded in the house. Nothing. Not even on the land. It's been the same for years. That's really all I'm appealing as far as the rental house. Ever since I owned it, the only thing that I have done is included another air conditioner. That's the only kind of upgrade that's been done. No porch, nothing like that has been upgraded. My mom and dad did all the
the vinyl siding and all that stuff. But when I inherited it, I've done nothing to it. That house was built in 1952. They owned it, they bought it in the 1980s. And my mom passed almost 3 years ago. So, and that house was not occupied for at least a year. And for the whole year of 2022, there was a lady that lived there, but she passed 2 weeks before my mama passed. So that house was not even occupied for at least a year.
Is it rented now?
It's rented now, actually, to my daughter.
Okay.
I don't get that much in rent, so. But that's the only thing that I'm appealing as far as the rental house is the appraised value, you know, the value on the house and the land, especially when nothing's been upgraded.
All right, if you got anything on the other one?
I do, the 894, which was my mom and dad's house. That house has not been occupied in almost 3 years. November the 4th will be 3 years. The value of the house increased from $73,000 to $83,000. The land value increased from $29,000 to $33,000. Why? I don't know, because nothing's been done. Like I said, the house has not even been occupied. Another thing that I'm appealing as far as my mom and dad, my dad passed away almost 5 years ago. My mom, like I said, 3 years ago. They are being charged school taxes. Why? How can you charge a resident school taxes when the house has not even been occupied for almost 3 years? Nobody lives in this house. I'm over the estate. I become over the estate in December of 2021. So nobody occupies that house. I live across the street. My daughter lives next door. So that's what I'm appealing.
Y'all got any questions?
I'm good.
No, no question. All right, Miss Lewis.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Give me just 1 second.
Okay.
We're good.
I guess I do have one question. You say on 894, you said no one lives in the house.
No, ma'am.
Are they aware that no one lives in the house?
Yes, ma'am.
The 893. 893, parcel number J59A004. Consists of a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, 880 square foot, single-family residence located on Chapman Drive in Macon. Final estimate of value is $50,800. I've got 3 comps here that is hard finding houses that small. There aren't many houses. All of these houses are bigger, but I went. They're all. Most of these are 100 grade houses. I have one that's a 105 grade, but I made adjustments for it. But what has happened in the last, since COVID, prices have just been ridiculous. We're tasked by the state. We have to be as close to 40% as we can be. We're allowed to be 36, we can be as high as 44. Again, last year we were at 32.9. So we had to do a 20%, we did a 20% increase. We probably should have went more than that, but we don't want to hit everybody all at once real heavy. But we had to do something because we're in trouble with the state and it's going to get really messy. On this property, it went up 12%. Prices went up 50%. But let me start with here, this first one. The first one, on these, for all of my comps, I have pictures of them. I have property record cards for all of the comps with a picture of them and everything. The first comp is at 116 Briarwood Circle. The land, I had to make a $2,216 adjustment on the land. It's valued at $107,793. It's sold in November 16th of 2023 for $155,000. That's what we look at. We look, there's three methods of value: cost, sales, and then on commercial you do income. But what we're mainly looking at here is sales. Things are selling when a rising tide lifts all ships. Just because you haven't improved your house or anything like that, it's not for sale or anything, the value has increased because houses are selling for more. When they do that, we have to, by the state, we have to raise our values. Like I said, this house is 1,452 square foot versus hers being 880. This house is valued at $65 a square foot. The difference in the size, I had to subtract $37,180 to make it lower down to the 880 square foot. The effective ages I was telling you about, hers was built in 1952. It has a 1974 effective year. My first comp was built in 1975, 1981 effective year. I subtracted $7,000 for it being newer. Both of them average condition. This one is a 105 grade house versus hers being a 100 grade house. I subtracted $5,000. This one had an extra 2 baths. Hers has 1. I subtracted $7,000 because it's got a better bathroom. Open porch, utilities, and all that. This one only had $487 of that, so I added $5,149. Garage and carport, this one had one, so I subtracted the $5,017 for the carport. It had an $1,800 accessory, I subtracted the $1,800 accessory. Total adjustments, $55,632, which gives it a final value with the land of $52,161. The next one's at 3619 Champion Court. The land value, was only $9,000 for the value. I subtracted $4,442. It's assessed at $94,600. It's sold 7/7/2023 for $105,000. Again, it's bigger. It's 1,371 square foot versus 880. I subtracted $30,442. It's at $62 a square foot. It was built in 1970, an effective age of 1986. I subtracted $12,000 for the difference in effective years. Average condition on both, 100 grade, no adjustment. It had 1 full bath, 1 half bath. I subtracted $3,500 for the half bath. Open porches and decks. Subject property had 5,636. This had 3,632. That's $2,000 and $2,004 adjustment there. That should be in black. That's a positive. Neither had a detached garage. This one didn't have a carport, 00, no accessories. Total adjustments on that, $39,496. Total value, $55,104. The next one has 1 acre of land. Subject property has 1.44 acres. I made a $5,942 adjustment. We have it valued at $82,900. It's sold on July 31st, 2023 for $89,000. This one had 1,192 square foot versus her 880. I subtracted $19,032 to balance that out. This was at $61 a square foot. Again, the effective year this had was built in 1978, 1986 effective year. I subtracted $12,000 there to balance that out. Both of them are 100 grade. This had 1 bath. They have 1 bath, no adjustment. Both of them have the air conditioning. This one had a little more on open porches, decks, patios, and utilities room, so I subtracted $3,245. The garage, there's no garage. They did have an accessory of $2,590. I subtracted $2,590. My adjustment was $30,925. came out with a total of $51,975. Subject property is a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, single-family residence located on Chapman Drive in Macon. After adjustments to value, comparable number 3 with an adjusted value of $51,975 has the smallest amount of adjustment, $30,925, is therefore the most comparable. We feel our assessment is fair and uniform, and our assessment should stand. Final opinion of value, $50,800. Like I said, we were in trouble with the state because our values were too low. We had to go up. We went up 20%. This property went up 12%. I know they haven't made adjustments, but, I mean, they haven't changed anything or anything like that. The prices are up across the board over everyone. We did this across the board on everybody. We went up 20%. Your, you know, age and everything, your depreciation factors, nobody hardly is at 20% unless you have a brand new house. The older the house, the less it went up. But we had to do this. To do our job and be in compliance with the law, we had to do this. That's this one. The other one, this is J59A212, consists of a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,362 square foot single-family residence. It's, I think, right beside it or right across the road, I can't remember. But its final estimate of value is $83,214. Again, I did the same thing. This is a 100-grade house. Two of the houses I did were 95 grade, one of them was 100 grade. The first one, at 143 Reagan Drive, for some reason I didn't do that, but I had to make, I didn't make an adjustment on there. I should have made an adjustment and added some money there because I should have had $14,000 or something there because that's $18,250. I messed up there. But the square footage is roughly the same. The subject property is $1,362. This property is $1,392. It's $70 a square foot. It's $2,100 and negative $2,100 to make it adjusted out. Effective year, year built and effective year on the subject property is 1973, 1978. The first comp is built 1976, 2000 effective year, subtract $22,000. The comp is 95 grade versus 100. I added 5,000 to make it right. Open porch, deck, patio and everything on the subject property is $3,315. This one has $5,206. I subtract $1,891. The comp has a 2,214 carport, so I subtracted 2,214. Pool, concrete, and accessories. The subject has $4,864. The comp has $8,474. I subtracted $3,610. I subtracted $26,814. I should have subtracted another $14,000 that I missed on the land. I'm sorry. So that'd be really $97,000 on the total.
On the Plantation Road.
Yes, sir. Oh, this is on Reagan.
On Reagan.
The first copy.
97,000.
Yeah, it should be 83. It should have another 14 for the difference in the land.
96,948.
Yeah, yeah, I'm sorry, I messed up. Okay, the one on Plantation, it had more land. It had 8.10 acres, 44,550. The subject is 18,250. I subtracted 26,300. The assessment of this one is 174,450. It's sold on 5/10/2023 for $188,000. It's 1,488 square foot at $81 a square foot. When I subtract the subject from that, I subtracted $10,206. It was at $81 a square foot. Built 1980, 1993 effective year. I subtracted $15,000. for the difference there. They're both 100 grade, no adjustment there. I made adjustments because it had more open porch, deck, patio, and utility, so I subtracted 4,215. No detached garage, no garage carport. I don't know why I took the 4,000 off there, but that. Oh, okay. The subject property had $4,864, so I had to add 4,864 here. Total adjustments, 50,857, total value 123,593. The next one on Linda Drive, is 1.29 acres, 12,115, and again, I didn't do my land there, but I should have added 6,000 there.
6135.
Yeah, I don't know how I did that. The assessed value is 91,182. We have it's sold on 3/11/2022 for $85,000. It's a little less than that. It's $1,244 square foot versus 1,362. I added 7,316 for the difference in there. It's $62 square foot. Built in 1975, effective year of 1990. I subtracted $12,000 because it's newer and better. Both of them average condition. This is a 95 grade house versus a 100 grade house. Added $5,000. It has it has one full, one half bath. I added $3,500 to make that value equal out for the half bath and make it to where it's two baths. Open porch, decks, patios, and utilities. This had 8,511. I subtracted 5,196 to balance that out. Garage and carport, we had $3,887. I subtracted that. The subject property had $4,864 in pools, concrete, and accessories. This had $1,775. I added $3,089. Total adjustments $2,178, and comes out to $89,004, and it should have six to that, so that should be 95 something.
139.
Yeah, okay. I don't know what I was doing that day. Wasn't thinking, I guess. But it was to the good. The subject property is a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, single-family residence located on Chapman Drive in Macon. After adjustments to value comparable to number 3 with adjusted value, that should be changed. Has the smallest amount of adjustment and is therefore the most comparable. We feel that our assessment is fair and uniform and that our assessment should stand. Our final opinion of value is $83,214, no change. She brought up the issue of the school taxes. That is something that we have nothing to do with. The commissioners have to ask the board, have to ask the legislature to make any changes on things like that. That's something we have no control over. Don't have any questions or?
Do you understand that, Ms. Lewis,
Yes, sir.
about the school tax?
Yes, sir. So,
It's been an issue here in the paper and lately, and people wanting to know, and it's really a legislative, the county makes a recommendation to the legislature to get it changed for our county. Some counties have it, some don't.
right.
Typically counties that have more commercial, and everything, they can do that because they have more commercial industries and everything. This is, Macon's bedroom community. We're mainly residential. That's why ours is. But the main thing I'd like to point out is we had to go up on everybody. We were at 32.9. We needed to get up to 36. The only way that we can do that in a fair and uniform way is to go across the board with everyone with the 20%. The state wanted us to go higher than that. We didn't want to hit everybody because we're anticipating the market dropping off. We don't want to jack everybody up for multiple reasons, but we don't want to go way up. We're hoping that the market's going to level off and we can be this way. But we did it the most fair and equitable way we know of. We did a 20% adjustment across the board. It doesn't matter if you made it, if you did anything to your house or not. Prices across the board have gone up everywhere. And what we had to do is
What
reflect
did
that.
hers work out to?
12%.
Huh?
On the first one, she went up 12%,
Right.
and on the second one, it was 13%.
Bill,
And your depreciation takes that into account.
if you look at comps 1 and 3, now that we made the adjustments that you didn't put in there, that brings me to 96.6 and 95.1. Do you think she's undervalued at the number she's at now?
Probably, but like I said, we're undergoing a countywide revow all the time.
We're good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
but
understand.
Like I said, we did 20%. They wanted us to go way more than that. We're trying to be as fair and equitable as we can be and go up gradually, because when the market corrects, we don't want to go way up, and then when the market corrects, have to go way back down. We'd rather go up incrementally, and then when the market corrects, we're probably going to be in a sweet spot. But we don't want to do it. We don't want to raise anybody's any more than we just absolutely have to. We try and be fair and uniform with everyone.
Questions?
Do you have any other questions?
No,
We made a decision, we're going, because we're gonna leave their assessment as is. As hard as it's, a burden to you, but they presented, everything he's given us is pretty much on the money as far as what's happening in the county.
okay,
And we appreciate, you do have the right to appeal,
right,
and you can appeal this, so that's just our ruling for today.
okay,
All right?
okay. All right, well, thank you.
Yes, ma'am, thank you for coming.
All right, thank you.
Two sets, the decision and the questionnaire for the properties.
The school tax, I was reading about that in some of the other counties, but, a big county. As long as you have one exemption, homestead, whatever, and you're 65 or over.
Yeah, when you turn 65, you can apply again.
Right, apply to the old folks, the exemption until we
Yeah.
make next month.
It doesn't
If
hurt, they still.
anybody doesn't object, we'd like to take about a 5-minute break, if that's possible. Is the, let me find out who's here.